Well, why don't we go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for being here. Good to see you. Happy New Year, as the case may be, or at least in my vision, that this is the start of the new year. For those of you who haven't met or don't know me, I'm Doug Donovan. I'm from District 3. I'm on the NILOA board. I'm the at-large member for MLAX-OG. I've been asked to do a session on 10-man ride. Before I even get started, please feel free to make this as interactive as possible. If you have questions, please don't be afraid to ask them. If you want to wait towards the end, that's fine. But if I say something that doesn't strike the right chord, don't be afraid to ask. I believe, because we are recording this for the website, that they want me to pass out a couple microphones so that we can get your questions on the tape. So give us a second to kind of throw you a microphone, but please feel free. If the goal here is to give you as much information as we can and hopefully to come together and handle a difficult play for us to officiate. For those of us who have been officiating for quite a while, 10-man never used to be a big part of the game. I mean, we used to see the 10-man at the end of the game when a team was trailing and had to get possession back. But we really didn't see it a lot during the course of the game. Now we've got teams that it's part of the fabric of what they do day in, game out. And there's kind of a combination of teams as it relates to that as well. You've got teams that play it, and we may have a situation because they've made an error. And then I think we also have some teams out there that, quite frankly, are going to take advantage of the rules and basically dare you to catch them. And we've got to be aware of those situations. And the best thing we can do is be prepared for it and make sure that we're communicating on it. So we'll talk about how do we prepare for it. We'll talk about the tips to look for to identify it. And we're going to talk about how do we best officiate it as a crew. But this is definitely, it's not maybe the biggest part of the game. Certainly we're not going to do it. You're not going to see it as often as we're going to see the face-offs. We're not going to have it as much as part of the restarts. But this has become a very critical part of the game, and it's becoming a much more common part of the game. So we need to be talking about it. The other thing we want to talk about is what other issues come up because of teams going 10-man. What are the things that we need to look out for because we're trying to navigate this situation? Preparation's our best chance of getting this correct. And if we're not preparing for this correctly, we're probably going to miss it. This is one of the more challenging calls that we've got, and I think for a variety of reasons. One, it is one of the calls that we're making where we have to have observation of the entire field. I would say 80% of our game, we can really focus in on a smaller section of the field. You know, we're in a settled situation on offense, and we're only worried about what's going on inside the restraining line. There's nothing going on the other half of the field. And we've got three officials in a very close proximity to each other making the calls, and we've got all the players kind of in front of us and all the action in front of us. This situation is the opposite. Basically, we've now expanded the entire field as part of what we've got to be able to watch and observe and see what's going on, one. Two, we generally have substitutions going on during this. So there's a bunch of action that's going on that is related to the play and some that maybe not as related to the play. Three, it is probably during the time that is the most physically taxing portion of what we're doing. The vast majority of 10-man rides are after a turnover, generally on the end line, and we'll talk about that in a second. We're now changing possession, and we're now changing positions. And so now we've got a trail who's got the hard run down to get into his position. We've got a C that needs to get to the midline. So we've got more movement, we've got more field to cover, and we got more activity going on the field, which makes this as a difficult call to make as anything we've got. The potential violation that we're talking about when we're talking about 10-man ride happens like that. It is not uncommon for them to go offsides, and they're offsides for a second, maybe a second and a half. And that's all that they needed to gain the advantage that they're looking to gain. So if we're not looking where we need to look when this is happening, we're not going to get a lot of time to get this right. This is not your traditional offsides where the guy crosses over and he's over there for quite a while. This is guy crosses the midline, takes away a potential passing target, and then gets back into position in a lot of cases, especially for the teams that are doing this and daring you to get it right. These are quick, instantaneous. We've got to be looking in the right spot. We got to get it at the right time. It takes an entire crew effort to get this right. We need to be communicating, we need to be looking for it, and we need to be aware that this is happening. And we also need to know that our crewmates may have a little different look or be looking at something a little differently than they used to, and now we have to pick up some slack for them because we have to deal with this situation. Preparation and communication are certainly our best tools. If we're not talking to each other, in our pre-games about it, and talking about teams and their histories and whatnot, if we're not on the field saying, hey, they just went 10-man the last time we had a clearing, then we're not putting ourselves in the best position to catch this and get it right. This should be part of every pregame. A lot of us have been working for a while. We have the same teams in multiple years. We all watch games on TV. There's more games on TV than there ever been before. We all should have a pretty good understanding of which teams 10-man is part of their regular fabric and could be doing it at any time during the game. And so that needs to be covered in the pregame that, hey, this is a team that 10-mans. We need to be prepared for it. We need to be looking. We need we got 2 or 3 tips to how to find it and look for it. We need to be checking those tips each and every time we've got a clearing. So, and then we should be talking about what our roles and responsibilities are during this play. And it should be part of your every pregame that you're doing. There should be a section where, hey, does either of these two teams 10-man? The other thing is, if we're not communicating when we first see it, then we're not doing ourselves justice to get it right. 9 times out of 10, the first person who's going to know that there's a 10-man going on is the new lead. You can't just keep that information to yourself. You need to communicate to your crew as quickly as possible. Now, I'm not going to tell you as the new lead, if I see that there's a 10-man, I'm going to try and scream across the field to the guy who's at the C that there's a 10-man going on. But I will tell you that as soon as that ball comes down and we get into a settled situation, I am definitely going to be letting my C and potentially my trail know that there's a 10-man if the game allows me. If it doesn't, the first stoppage, I'm going to let them know, hey, that last time the blue team went 10-man, we need to be watching for that all game. If you don't pick up on it quickly, you're going to miss it. And if you're not looking for it, you're not going to pick up on it quickly. So we need to be communicating, hey, they just went 10-man. And I don't think it's a problem. And I think it's okay that once we're in a settled situation that you yell across and say, hey, did you see they went 10-man that last time? Let's be watching for it. Don't wait. Because the other problem we've got is, as you know, we rotate. And if you're the only person that knows that they went 10-man and now you're not in that new lead position, you may not be in the best position to help out with that call. And if our other 2 guys don't know to look for it, we're going to miss it. So, you got a question? Are these already on? Anything?
Is this on? Can you hear me? All right.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
So as part of the communication thing, I know it can be difficult to yell across the field that the 10-man's going on. Would you suggest that the single, while he's on his way to the cone, just take a peek at the riding goalie to see if he's out or not?
I absolutely will. We're going to go over some tips in terms of how to identify it and pick it up. But yeah, if we know that a team traditionally 10-mans, if you're the new C, or we're in transition, you're the C, I would take a peek at the goalie and see if the goalie's out. If you're the trail, you certainly should be doing that. The new lead, you should be doing that. Trail's probably going to be hard, but I'll be honest, if I'm waiting to put the ball in play, I'm going to take a peek and see if I can see whether the goalie's out. I think the more people that are aware, the more members of the crew that are aware of it, the better chance we have to get it right. But I don't think it's don't feel like you can't yell across and let your partners know. We're not divulging state secrets here. We're not taking advantage away from anybody. We're trying to put ourselves in the best position to make the call. Basically, for those of you, on 10-man, we're basically taking the goalie and trying to match up with every player on the field. We're not leaving the goalie in the crease, and now we've got a free person out on the field to make a clearing pass. We're not trying to play, 6-on-7, whatever. We're trying to match up and go 7-on-7 or 10-on-10 in this situation. And so basically, when that goalie's leaving the crease to cover an attackman, what it's doing is it's freeing up a defenseman. And that defenseman is heading up to the midline to cover an opposing midfielder, which is creating a free midfielder to get over on the what would be our offensive half or the other team's defensive half of the field. And so basically, we're just trying to match up. Everybody's got a man. And that's what we're looking at. One of the things you will see with the 10-man is teams play it differently. You've got teams that play a really hard 10-man, and that goalie really will leave the crease to go match up with somebody. And you've got other teams that'll tend to kind of soft, what I would say soft 10-man. Goalie leaves the crease, but he's always staying in the general vicinity of the crease that if he needs to get back in, he will. And ultimately, that may dictate what happens next, especially as it relates to clearing passes and shots. So if we look at standard field, and this is without, obviously, a 10-man, we've got the goalie in and we've got matching up, but we're always leaving someone to make that next pass. There's always somebody that's going to be open to make the next pass. In this case, right now, it's the goalie. So when the team's going to go 10-man, we're going to actually match up with that. So what do we want to do to identify this? We want to look for the following tips. Where's the restart happening? Or what is the restart? We're obviously going to look at the defensive goalie. And then we want to really look at where the free defenders are. And that's really going to tip us off to whether we're going to have an offsides or we're not going to have an offsides. Those are the three things that we really want to focus in on. So if this is the 10-man field, I think the first thing that we want to look at is, all right, where are we putting the ball in play? Most teams that are going to 10-man are going to 10-man off an end line. Generally, they're not going to go into a 10-man if the ball is up by the substitution box. They just don't have enough space and time to make that happen. So when that ball goes over the end line, I think that's where especially for a team that traditionally 10-mans, your intent has got to go up. Hey, this is a potential 10-man situation. Second thing we talked about is goalie. Where's the goalie position? He's out. Okay, now we're pretty damn sure we've got a 10-man situation. So now what are we looking at? Now we're looking at who's the potential to go offsides. And so if I'm the C in this situation, I've already kind of hit bullet point A that said, you know what, I should be looking for this. Bullet point B is, it's on. Now what do? I'm looking for who could be the guys that go offsides. So unlike most situations where we have offsides in the defensive half of the zone, this is going to be, we're going to put too many people in the offensive half on the clear. And so I'm looking at these two players saying, okay, which one of these guys, do both of these guys go? Do one of these guys go? And if they go, then we're going to have a potential offsides. You got the down.
So what's the defensive goal in this situation is either one, to cause a turnover, or two, to cause a failure to clear.
Correct.
Failure to advance.
Yep.
Or either, right?
Well, I think there's three. I don't know that there's three things that could happen, and I don't know that you're seeing a lot of it. But one, obviously, primary goal is they want to turn the ball over. Secondary goal would be they want to turn the ball over by the clearing count. I think there's a third goal in this, and I don't know that with our shot clock the way it is right now at 80, it's as big a goal. But if I can get you to use more of your time, your shot clock time up in your defensive half of the zone, that's giving you less time in your offensive half of the zone to run your offense, especially if you're going to have to make subs and everything else. So if I can slow you down from bringing the ball down the field, then I'm restraining your offense to some degree because I'm taking time off the shot clock. But I think that's their goals. Our goals is obviously to get the call, or get it right, and our goal is not to miss a potential offsides. And I think there are certainly a number of teams out there that they go offsides in error, and it's they're playing 10-man and they have a breakdown in communication, and somebody accidentally goes offsides. I think there's also other teams out there that are daring us to get the call right, and it's cost of doing business is we're going to do this and we're going to see if you can catch it, and if you can't catch it, we're going to continue doing it, and if you do catch it, then we're going to dial back and maybe not do it. And I've had games where that has happened, where a team coming in, 10-man, went offsides in the first quarter, got caught, and we didn't see the 10-man the rest of the game. But the challenge is with everything that's going on and with repositioning and all the guys moving all over the field, it can be tough to catch, and it generally only lasts. It can be less than a second. If you've seen some of the clips, and unfortunately I don't have any of the clips, literally I'm stepping across to take away a potential pass target, and then the guy with the ball looks, sees he's covered, now moves on and throws the next pass, and now I drop back into an onside position. It's that quick. See, in this case, obviously we got all three and we got offsides. But that guy that just went offsides literally could be back in a second. So a couple things for me that I'd like to do here is, and everybody's got their own way of doing it, I'd rather count a smaller number than a bigger number. So if I'm the new lead or I'm the C, I generally want to count the smaller number because I can get to that number faster. So I'm down here and I'm counting, do I have four? Do I have four? I only got three. So what do I do when I get three? Now I'm counting forward and saying, all right, now do I have seven? The great thing about this, and the great thing about most calls in our sport, unlike maybe basketball where if you're a beat or two late, that's a real problem. In lacrosse, you're a beat or two late, it's okay. You wait an extra beat to decide whether you're going to throw a flag. It's not changing anything. You wait an extra beat or two to ensure that that guy is offsides before you make the call or throw the flag. In this case, it'll be a flag. It's not okay. It's not hurting anything. And the good news is this is going to show up on tape. So even if he's now back, before you throw the flag, he's now back and they're on sides, but you just took the time to just make sure that he was, and your flag comes late, yeah, you're going to catch a little heat, and you're going to hear, no, we're good. Well, the good news is, if you saw it, you caught it, it's going to show up on tape. All the teams have that camera angle from above the press box that, in football you call it the all-22, the full field. It's going to show up. So you can't be afraid to make that call. You also can't be afraid to take your time with it and be a second late with it. It's okay. It's not going to change anything. I don't know if this one. Hoping that one works.
Let's try.
Good.
I've seen a lot of coaches scream they're offsides, but that
If we only had $1 for every time.
that yellow midi stepped into the box.
And that's why, in my mind, I like to count the small number, but I'm not doing anything until I count the big number. So this is, for me, it's going to tip me off that I got a potential problem, and then I'm going to verify it. Because what can happen, certainly, he went, I only got three, but what I found out that this midfielder's no longer here. He went off the sub, and now all of a sudden they're not offsides. So to me, you do still have to verify that that's what you got. For me, smaller numbers are easier than bigger numbers, and smaller area of the field with probably less movement going on than what's going on there. It's easier for me to count backwards than count forward and validate it. Everybody has their own opinion on that.
So let's assume that the new lead is on the left side of the screen there, and the restart is coming with the goalie after chasing a shot all the way on the right side of the screen. As the new lead, where are you positioning yourself essentially? Are you going deeper? Are you top of the box? Where do you go?
Great question. You're going to force me to skip ahead here. A little bit? That's all right. Really good question. So when I first got started, I worked with Phil DiDomenico, John Gorman, and two of the best guys you could ever work with, and it was the year that we had crews for the entire season. I worked 22 games with them, and I learned more about lacrosse and more about officiating that year than probably every other year I've officiated. They used to tell me, as I was a younger guy, who always wanted to show I could run, we got to clear, and let's going to, down at that end, I'm going to become the new lead. Why are you running all the way down to the goal line if the ball's still all the way in the defensive half? There's no reason for that. You're running an extra 20 yards this way. If it turns over, you're going to have to run an extra 20 yards that way. So you've just added 40 yards of running that you may or may not had to do. And probably more importantly, you just put yourself in a position where you're in a poorer position to make a call that might need to be made at the midfield, right? So I learned you kind of stop at the restraining line and then let the ball come down, and you still will get to the goal and the end line with plenty of time. I think it's different on this call. And the reason why I think it's different when we see a 10-man is, and then we're going to get back, and I'm probably going to skip over some bullet points. What happens when the goalie leaves the goal and they're struggling to clear the ball? What do we see happen a lot? Shot. If I stay up here, am I in a great position to call the possession if it's a shot or not? Probably not. Am I in a good angle looking at the field to see kind of what's in front of me and what's down here to actually see the guy as he's shooting it? Probably not. The other thing I'm not in a great spot for is to pick up the shot clock. And to me, shot clock is a couple things. One, we need to know that they took that full field shot before the shot clock or the clearing clock expired. But two, when I'm determining whether that's a good and valid shot or not, it's a judgment call, and part of my judgment is going to be, okay, was he in a good position to shoot the ball and really have it go where he wanted to go? Was he kind of just throwing it down the length of the field because he had run out of options? And I'll be honest, I'm going to probably give you more benefit of the doubt that you launch that shot with 10 seconds left on the clearing count than I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt when you do it with a second left on the clearing count. So what I want to do is get down here. And what this position allows me to do is, one, cover the end line for that shot, but two, it allows me to turn upfield and have everything in front of me. Put my back to the end line and have everything in front of me, which means I'm in a much better position to see the guy release the ball and how he released the ball. I'm also in a better position because on most fields, I can pick up the shot clock in the background. And that's particularly important because, especially depending on where that ball is being cleared from, our C may have no ability to pick up the shot clock. I mean, we all know that we get fields where the shot clocks are here or there or whatever, and if the ball's coming down that far sideline, and it might be by the wing line, C really can't look at the shot clock at that point because he can't miss a slash or a bad hit right in front of him. So now we've got to help him out with that shot clock, and I'm in a much better position here to do that than I am if I'm here. I don't have the... see if that's...
If you're the new lead, are you trying to communicate with your single side? Because you have a better view of if those guys are actually subbing off the field or not. Because that's difficult to tell from across the field. You can't tell if they're into the box or out of the box. Sometimes there's 20 people behind them, so you can't really distinguish that. Are you trying to communicate with your partner across the field saying they're subbing, something like
I think it's hard.
so he doesn't make that mistake?
I think it's hard to communicate from this distance, but certainly as the new lead, I think one of our primary focuses, forget for now that we're dealing with 10-man, I think one of our primary focuses is the substitution box. Now, I love the backpedal. I know that's not everybody, but what I like about it is if I'm backpedaling, I can see what's going on with the substitution box as I'm trying to get into position. But yeah, I don't think that, I can't say that this person or that person owns the offsides call in this situation in a 10-man. I think we both do. I think it's going to be really hard for the new trail to catch it. But there are times if he's heads up and he's aware of it, it's possible. It's just not as likely. It's probably going to be one of these two guys. I think the only thing that you want to be able to do is, while you might not be able to communicate that, if he makes an error, you might be able to catch the error. And at that point, we've got to fix that. Get it right. The most important thing is get it right. So if you know, hey, I had to count, and yeah, you counted that we only had 3 back here, but you didn't really count that. It doesn't matter that we only had 3. It matters that we had did we have 7 or did we have 6 up there? And if you know that we never had 7 on their offensive half of the field, then you didn't have a foul, and you got to get together and work that out. So yes, I think you need to be aware of it. I don't know how you're going to easily communicate it. Does that make sense? So I'm going back in time here a little bit. Keith led us there, but yes, shot versus pass is a big challenge on this one. And we talked about the new leads really got it busted to get there. And I'll tell you, one of the things, have you ever had one of those games where it's, racehorse lacrosse, it's going to be 22-21, as soon as one of the teams picks it up, they're going to goal, like they get it in their defensive end, they're going to go, they're going to fast break, they're going to, every time they have, they're going to fast break and go. And you're in that situation, and I know as an official, if I'm in one of those games and I'm the trail, maybe instead of, positioning myself 2 or 3 yards outside the restraining line as the trail, maybe I'm coming back to 5 or 6 yards because I know every time they pick up the ball, I've got to go get to goal. I think in this situation, if we know we got 10-man, think of it the same way. Hey, I know ultimately I want to get back, I want to get here. So maybe I'm going to give myself a little bit of buffer as the trail position in the offensive zone. I may want to step back. Or certainly the ball hits the ground and I'm probably going to take a step back and get momentum. Just something to think about. Same thing on C. When we have 10-man situations, C's really got to get to the cone. So, that ball goes out of bounds and it's end line, you better get yourself there and start looking down the field and picking up where the goalie is while you're getting there. The other thing that I think we need to be aware of is obviously clearing clock. I think C, in this case, is really focused in on the offsides situation. And depending on how the ball's being cleared, may have a really difficult time picking up the clearing clock. So I think the best person to help with that is the new lead. Don't be afraid to make that call. That call can come from anywhere. It really doesn't have to be the C's call. One thing I like to do is the C, and I talk about it in my pre-games. If I'm the C and I've got the ball coming down the far sideline, and I've got to be focused on the action, and I don't know exactly where we are in the clearing clock, I will point when the ball crosses the midfield. And my goal on that is my partner, who is the lead, you see my arm go forward before that thing hits 60, we're good. You don't see my arm go forward and you see 60, go ahead and make the call. And it's because the one thing when you're that new lead, it can be difficult. All right, when did he actually cross the midline? I'm trying to give another visual on that. And so I think in these situations, we've got to be aware of it. The last thing I think that we really need to be aware of, especially now that we're maybe altered our positioning a little bit, is what we've affectionately declared the Bermuda Triangle. And it's that area between the cones that goes out to the midline. And, we all want to be respectful partners. And, basically the challenge we get into is you get a foul that's in that area. And I'm going to pass to the C because he's got a different angle and he's actually can see, whether he made contact or didn't make contact. And maybe, I'm passing to the lead because he's got the backside, I've got the front angle. Well, he's looking at offsides, and so he didn't get quite as good a look at it. And now all of a sudden, we've got a foul, and maybe a hit, that's happening in this area. 3 of us basically determined that the other of us had a better angle to make the call, and then none of us made the call. And the 2 people that have the best view of it in the house are standing at this cone and at that cone. And they're not shy about telling you screwed it up. You got to understand, we all own that entire area. And I know we don't like to have 3 flags on the field because generally it's telling us that somebody's not watching the area that they should be watching. But in this case, that's okay. The other part of the problem is, if there is a problem, where's probably the worst place on the field for there to be a problem, especially if it's a late hit or something like that? It's right here, because we've got 30 guys here, 30 guys here, and maybe 6 guys there, all in very close proximity to the foul. They saw it, and in close proximity to each other. So the other thing that I think we want to keep in our minds when we're doing this, and maybe when we're altering our positioning here, is, hey, let's be particularly cognizant that we all own that area and not be afraid to make the call in that area. It's not, I'm not being a good partner, or I'm fishing in somebody else's pond, or any of that. That we all own it. We all got to make that call. That's a call that we can't miss, because bad things happen. Question? Good, perfect.
Hi, thank you. Coaches in pregame will come out if they generally run the 10-man, and they'll ask us, what do you consider a shot? And I know in pregame we talk about it, and we all kind of nod our heads because we get it. If we think it's a shot, we'll call it a shot. That doesn't always feel like the right answer to give the coach. So our coaches, it is the right answer, but the coaches are expecting more. It leads to more questions and draws you down a rabbit hole when you're trying to get in and out of a coach's meeting. So any advice there?
I think the answer has just got to be what we determine is a shot. I mean, it's almost like you know it when you see it. It's the, Supreme Court definition of whatever. Walks like a dog, talks like a dog, what have you. But so to me, I'm looking at, okay, how was the guy, the potential shooter, what was his body positioning? I mean, was he shooting, falling out of bounds? Was he, and driving in the direction of it? Where are we on the shot clock? Quite frankly, where's the goalie? We talked about 10-man. We got 10-man where it's a soft 10-man. Yeah, he leaves the crease, but he doesn't really stray far from the front of the crease. If this is completely wide open, I mean, there's nobody in front of it, I tend to give you a little more benefit of the doubt than, if there's a goalie that is in front of, he may not be in the crease, but he's 3 yards in front of the crease and still is in a position to maybe make that save. I don't think there's any hard, true definition. You're going to have to play it by ear. One guy is going to be happy with your definition of that, and one guy's not going to be happy. And you're also going to see how it happens. I had a game in the snow, Villanova, Denver, and Villanova 10-man the entire game. And Denver cleared the ball via shot probably 30% of the time. And it was amazing. The ball came down the far sideline, the shot came across the goal, and there was always somebody standing here. And if the ball came up the bench side, the shot came across on a diagonal, and there was always somebody there. But the shot, they were all within a certainly reasonable distance of the goal as the balls went flying by, and they were never, I'm falling, or I'm not even looking, I'm just throwing it up at the field. I mean, they were all, I'm pointed, I'm aimed, but it was like if I'm going to miss to the side where I've got backup. What's that? No. But they were good, solid plays. It was smart. And honestly, the conditions were such that it was snowing like a banshee, and visibility was not great. We're using yellow balls. The field was covered. But it made a lot of sense. And honestly, that day, the Villanova coaching staff did not have a problem with any of the calls that we made on that. Other questions? Anybody got the score of the World Cup game? All right. Oh, well. Well, yeah, at least they scored. Anyway, thank you very much. This will be posted. Appreciate it. Good luck this season.